o'clock, so
Let's do it.
are we on?
Thumbs up.
Okay, we will call this public hearing to order on Monday, April 20th, 2020 at 7 p.m. Do we have a comment? Any comments?
Oh, I did. This is Beth, City Administrator. Just about a half hour ago, I sent all the aldermen and the mayor and Peggy and Chuck Conzo my email, and I just wanted to know if anybody had any questions, or if you care, you want me to explain it real quick, what I would like to do. I'd like to establish a second line within my office supplies line, or my copier printing paper, to show where I spend it, and I'll keep a log myself at both of the city's copier as well as the city clerk's copier, as well as my own copier, to show when I make copies of things that involve things that are involving more of the council and not so much what I'm working on. And I'm just making copies for people, but then it's going against my line. And with the $66.27 difference on my budget, I think that would probably absorb it. That's probably 2 cases of paper.
Steve, do you have a comment?
First, I hear music someplace.
Yeah, it's
Oh,
Oh, the phone.
it was.
and secondly, so Beth, I hadn't had a chance to read it. Can you tell me? So you added another line item. Can you tell me how much you put in that budget line?
Who's speaking? I'm sorry.
This is Steve.
Oh, hi, Steve. Okay, yes, I just was going to start one as of this coming fiscal year, starting, May 1st, that we'd have a line or even a sub-line somewhere within that I would write down, keep a log of what I use when I make copies. If you can see my email, I kind of explain some of the things that I
Beth, can you? This is Steve again. Can you tell me? How much money did you put in that budget line? I haven't read the email yet.
I didn't put any in there. I just left the budget whatever way. Alderman Bateman wanted to take some away. I don't know, whatever you put in there, but I think I can show that some of those papers that I am making copies of need to go towards the council. So I don't know if we can set up under the city council line, and then I plug that number in, and I keep a log to keep it verified, to stay, true, so you can see what I'm doing. But when I make copies, big bulky copies of union negotiations, we went through a lot of different things this year, with things that weren't what normally would do, and we won't be doing union negotiations for another 2 more years. So there would be some bulk involved with some of this that would be kind of abnormal to what other years would be.
Kevin.
So I read your email and I responded back with the question of what would this accomplish? Because if you're making copies for aldermen, the only way that would work or accomplish anything is if an alderman asked for a paper copy. We're all sitting here with laptops in front of us. You sent an email to us. You could say that this email had to pertain to the council and print off 8 copies, and not one single person asked for that print. So
I didn't say I was going to do that, Alderman. I am not going to do that. If I sent it to you, I sent it so you could see electronically what I sent.
Then my question is, what would this accomplish by separating out what you print? Because, you would have to send out an email and ask any alderman if they actually wanted a hard copy. So
Right.
I don't think it's going to solve anything, because if you print something else and nobody asked for it and you charge it to that line item, that would be an expense that was not needed.
And that's not what my intention is. You're not the only one that receives copies from me. If you'll go down my list, you'll see them. I can read it if you'd like me to, but I'd like you to go through it and just kind of give me some consideration with what I'm trying to show. When I've got people that come in for different things, or even people, citizens walk in and ask for a copy of something, and I jump up and give it to them because we're the city and we accommodate people. Now, that's not a lot of people, but I don't provide the alderman copies, hard copies of something, unless I'm told to do so. And so you've got it electronically, you can print your own out. But what I'm saying is, like, for certain things like testifying, if I have to be ready for a grievance, I have to have a copy to study so I can be ready when I have to testify. Same way about, I had to get the Fifth Street Road parcels, all of those lined up, so I've got that taken care of. So I think this is kind of a moot point, but I just thought if we set another line up, you can see that I have not been giving you a falsehood about what I'm doing. So after all this is done, I went an entire $66.24 over my budget, and that bounces out to about 2 reams of the paper,
Chuck, do you have a comment?
and that's including.
Yes, Mayor, thank you. I did talk with the city administrator about this, and I think what she, based on what she had suggested, what I said we could do, if it pleased the council, is to create a separate line within the city administrator's sub-fund, and I think she was agreeable to that based on the conversation we had. It would still be under her sub-fund, but it would differentiate between things that she prints that are in the regular line of her job and other things for some of these extra projects. But it's important to note it would still be within that sub-fund, so that would indicate to you or to the council or to anyone who wants to know who was actually doing the printing.
Just one more quick.
Right, that's exactly what I'm talking about, yes.
One more quick question. This is Steve again. So how do you budget? How would you explain the cost associated with the print, with the jobs that you're printing? Like how do you know how much money is involved in copies that you print for the public, copies that you print for the council? I mean, if you had like 10 people come in, during the month, each month and ask for, copies of stuff, how do you designate how many dollars are going towards that?
I don't know if you could do that. I consider that a courtesy to the citizens. I was going to get into this small business thing that we worked on. We worked pretty hard on that with these individuals, helping them. And there are times when you do stuff and you can't really explain it, and then later it comes in, tenfold for you for the city. So I don't know how to explain that. Other than when we had union negotiations, there'd be times when somebody wouldn't have an updated version of something in front of them. So I go make a copy, and that all went towards my line, and I didn't benefit from it, they did, but I was, was taken against my line. I was penalized for that, or apparently I've been penalized for it. But anyway, I just want you to read it and think about possibly doing that. I mean, or we could put it under a city council line, and when I make copies for something that someone wants the city council members to have, then I can put it towards that. And I will have everything documented on a side log so you can see what I'm doing. Date and time and everything if you want it. But
Jeff?
Beth, this,
I think pretty much what I've used of paper is going to be very minimal. I mean, it's not minimal, but it's going to be a lot less based on all these things that I was working on this year.
Beth, this is Jeff Einake. So are you asking, just for we'll just say the example would be your $1,500 for your office supplies. You want just a different line to divide that out? You're not adding more money. You're not asking for more money. You just want to divide that line? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah, I want to prove to you that I'm doing all this legitimately, that it's not something that I've, I don't know what you'd say, that I...
Right, to follow up...
Whatever, I mean, this is...
To follow up here, I mean, in your own memo or email you sent out earlier, I'll read it. The second large section paragraph you have there. Now, granted, as I explained at City Council budget meeting held Tuesday, 4/14 of 2020, a good portion of my paper usage volume will drop dramatically this coming fiscal year. So, I mean, that if you just want a different line and then
Right,
you just want
yes.
you want 501 and 1,000 in another, is that what you're asking, or
What was the last bit? Have a what, sir? I'm sorry.
are you asking for a different line so you'd have $1,000 in one line and 500 in another? Is that, and they're both supplies?
Well, I think what we discussed the latest was when Mr. Conzo said we would combine that, keep it 1,500, but we can break that out too. The 500 was for my 37 a month maintenance and cartridges 2-year contract I have with Minolta. So yes, probably in that $1,000 line, probably. Whatever, yeah, within the $1,500, if we can do something with that, that's fine.
Mr. Keller.
Yeah, to tag on to what Ron Keller here, to tag on to what Jeff said, if we're not asking for an increase in the budget and all we're asking for is a subdivision in that line, if that's what the committee who worked on this budget sees that can be done, not to be crass, but let's just do it and move on. I think we're spending way too much time on this issue that's not even an issue.
I agree.
So,
Oh, I'm sorry, Jeff.
Mr. Gonzo, is that easy enough just to add
Yes,
another line?
yeah, we can create another line. It would still be under the 02020214 sub-fund, city administrator's sub-fund, and we create another object number, which is the last 4 digits, which would be supplies, office, and then maybe special projects, or however you wanted to title it. And
Sure,
then
that's
if that's agreeable, then we could divide it 1,000 in that, or and 500 in the original line, or 750 and 750. Because I assume, Madam City Administrator, you're still going to need to print things on your own that you normally would print.
yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. Yes.
So, however you wanted to do that, that's what we would need. What you'd need to do when we get into the regular session is amend the budget with that and other amendments that you might want. But it would be easy enough to insert that line. in the
Kevin.
Final document.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
I'm still not understanding what this solves because, like, in your email, one of the things you, I guess, would put under this subline is city council committees of the whole meeting agendas as related to the attachments required. Everybody gets it electronically. So if you print it and then you tell us, hey, I printed this because the city council needed it, and nobody on the city council agrees, then again, we're printing things that don't need to be printed just for the purpose of printing them. I don't understand how this is going to solve anything
May I
other
interrupt?
than
May I
just
interrupt?
the fact that you validate that, in your own words last week, you're a paper person. So you're still, it's not going to lower the amount of printing at all. It's just a subline that's added to the audit that people have to go through that doesn't solve anything.
You're wrong on 2 counts. May I explain, please? I've already done most of my printing I needed to go follow up the Fifth Street Road project from 1996 forward. So I've got those documents. I've got the parcels that we've been working on. I've got all of those done. Peggy and I sat down and went through what she had in the vault and what I had, and we made copies for both of ourselves, and we've got what we need. The second thing is, the first part of it is, I don't make a copy just because to make the copy. The agenda was what I used to work on, and we had to, between the two of us, sometimes you had to create make another copy so that we could add that to the packet when you scanned it in. That's what I'm talking about. And sometimes those packets, as you know, they are about 90 pages long per meeting. So I'm saying that just a little bit of those things, they add up. I'm not saying there's a drastic amount of those, but
Beth, just to interrupt you, I don't know that we really need to have this conversation. I think everyone already determined that it wouldn't matter to have a subline. It's still the same thing. So can we just do that and move
I
on?
appreciate that.
I mean, okay. Is there any other comment on the public hearing at this point? I don't think anybody's on the phone unless I'm not looking at it. Okay. Okay, if there's no other comment, then we will adjourn the public hearing at 7:14 p.m. Chief, are we good? Okay. We will call this regular city council meeting to order on Monday, April 20th, 2020 at 7:16 PM. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn,
Present.
Mr. Bateman,
Present.
Mr. Leith,
Present.
Mr. Welch,
Present.
Mr. Parrott,
Present.
Mr. Downs,
Present.
Mr. Keller,
Present.
Mr. Haneke.
Present.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Do we have anyone that would like to speak under public participation? Okay, moving down, we have the consent agenda. We've got the payment of bills as well as the approval of minutes for April 6, 2020 public hearing, 1031 exchange meeting, and April 6, 2020 regular city council meeting.
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Ron made the motion, Tracy seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Welch,
Yes.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Leith.
Yes.
Under ordinance and resolution, we have the resolution adopting a working budget for fiscal year 2020 and 2021. Mr. Kondo?
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, members of the council. I did send this out, or did give this to the city clerk, who sent this out along with the memorandum that I told you I would include, which explains some of the possible long-term effects of the current virus pandemic that it may have on our city revenues. And as I indicated in this memorandum, we do have about a 4 to 4.5 month fund balance if there should be a disruption in that. We talked about it at length in the workshop. I think I don't know if there's anything further that you want to discuss. Based on the previous conversation in the public hearing, it would be appropriate if you please the council to do so, to amend the budget to reflect the change in the city administrator's subfund as described in your discussions. And also, there is one other thing that would need to be changed, and this is an error on my part. It is under the Capital Projects Fund, the acquisition of land. That in the original document, 60,000. That was the entire amount of the loan for the land acquisition. Part of that's now been paid, so that actually will lower that by $30,000, almost $30,000. It's on page 14, at the very top of the page. And the copies that you received that was sent out to you at 60,000, it should be $30,527, and that will pay off the balance of the cost of acquiring the lot across the alley from the fire station.
Mr. Welch.
Thank you, Mayor. Chuck, to be clear, going back to the administrator's line item for the office supplies, I know that we had a talk. I talked with her about this too, and I believe we were going to set that amount at $1,300. Is that what you reflect in your version of the budget?
What I show is 1,500, but still subject to the conversation that we just had in the public hearing, and I was kind of waiting for direction on how you wanted to split that out. But if that pleased the council to split that out between that line and the line that the city administrator had requested. So,
I guess I would say, first of all, I'd ask Beth if she's still okay with the $1,300.
Yes, are you there? Yes. That's fine, 1,300,
Yes.
just as long as we have enough to pay for that contract.
So then I would make a recommendation to set that line item for office supplies to $500 to cover the Minolta contract and shift the other remaining $800 to the new line item.
And would you just repeat that, please? It's kind of muffled.
Leave $500 in your office supply line item for your contract for your printer and
Uh-huh,
then
yes.
to put the remaining $800 into the new line item that the treasurer is going to create. That would be creating that new line item that you've requested for special projects.
Do you think we need that much in that line, that new line?
Well, make a recommendation. Split it 50, I don't care how you do it.
Probably flip it around.
Yeah, I would flip it around.
So you want,
Yes.
so you want the cost of your, okay, that's fine. Flip it around, 800 and
My office
500.
supplies, is it my office supplies in there, like staples and things like that are in that too? Yes, I'd flip it around if you don't mind.
I have no objections.
And
Council
paper,
doesn't.
of course, is in there too.
Right, so if we had 800 in the office supply portion of it and 500 in the contract, the Minolta contract,
That'll be special projects, right?
Mhm.
Yeah, that'll be special projects line item, Beth. Your
oh,
contract.
yes, I'm sorry, so make that 5, okay, well, then I'd really, okay. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so do we need to make an amendment?
500 be special projects.
We need to make a motion to the,
Yeah, you'll need to make an emotion for the.
with the amendment.
With the 2 corrections.
So then I would make a motion to approve item C, or item 6 on the agenda, the budget. And I would make a motion that we add a new line item to the administrator's budget for special projects, adding $500 to that line item, and then reducing line item 5102 to $800.
And also the change over the capital.
And then also
Same
the change for the land acquisition line item from 60,000 to 30,000.
30,527.
30,527.
I would second that.
Okay, Tracy made the motion, Steve seconded. Discussion? Kevin?
Though I have the right to work on the entire budget, I would be abstaining from this because we can't pull out certain items, and there would be a conflict of interest because of the city clerk's budget.
Other discussion or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Abstain.
Mr. Leith,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes.
Under bids, we've got the emulsion oil storage tank, Hampton equipment not to exceed 47,500, along with additional costs for foundation pad not to exceed 5,000. Mr. Landers, are you there?
Yes, I am. Can you hear me?
Yep. Would you like to explain that or talk about that?
So in 2015, we added a spray patcher to our tool bag to help with road repairs and to also help enhance our resurfacing projects. Since then, at the same time, we've purchased a 1,000-gallon skid tank that we use to transport oil with. We haul it on a trailer. We haul it to Morrisonville, Illinois, and have it filled with up to 800 to 900 gallons of oil, and it's brought back. And that's how our process has been going. If we got our operations going full tilt, usually we can use up that tank in about a week and a half. If the guys are out working in good weather. So with this tank, if we get the larger tank and have the oil delivered to us, which will be more economical to have it delivered in larger volumes, and it'll keep us on the street working more. And it'll give us the capabilities to have oil delivered late in the season so we can extend our season of spray patching. It's a seasonal, road oil is a seasonal product, and usually about the first of October into September, they quit making it. So we could get a large delivery or a few thousand gallons delivered late in the year and still have it on hand to use when we have good weather yet in October and December. And even into November if we have enough, if we get good weather. And it also might allow us to extend our operations into some crack filling in late winter or early winter and early spring to help preserve pavements.
any questions or? Do we have a motion to
As
approve?
far as the pad for the tank, that work will be done by the street department staff. We'll construct that for it to be mounted on.
Kevin?
Does this come out of motor fuel, Walt?
No, this is out of our, equipment fund.
Any other questions? Do we have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Jeff made the motion, Jeff made the motion, Kathy seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Landers. Moving down to reports, Mr. Conzo?
Thank you, Mayor. You've all received printed copies of this report. As usual, our general fund balance remains strong. Of course, we haven't begun to see the effects of the disruption in some of these revenue streams that we do expect to receive in the months ahead as a result of this shutdown that was caused by the outbreak of the virus. I do want to talk about the investment page, second page there. You see our investments took quite a hit in fire pension fund and police pension fund during the month of March. It's not a surprise. We knew by the middle of the month that it was not going to go well, and it was at an all-time low by the end of the month. It is exactly the way you see it there. We took over $1 million on the police pension, and then on the fire pension, about 800,000, 750,000, I guess, on that from the previous month. However, the market has started to rebound. We closed today, I think, at 23,750, more or less. Some of the after closing at above 24,000 last Friday, and a lot of that was due to the oil glut that is causing prices of oil to go down to the point where it's not profitable for the oil companies. I expect that'll change as the country begins to open up again and other countries around the world begin to open up and there's more demand for oil. Right now, the demand for it is low, and in addition to the other factors that had been going on in the market that have caused the price to decline. And that's had an effect on the stock market as well as the virus. Looking ahead, looking toward, if you look at the back, the attachments, you see the municipal sales tax. We're just now, or during the month of March, we received the sales tax and state use tax, non-home rule tax payments for December. And you see there, for the month of December, we were up about almost $28,000 over the previous December. And we're up about $140,000 for the year. So that had been, the economy was going real well there, and we saw continuous increases in this as well as most of the other revenue streams. Problem is, we're not going to see the effect of this downturn until another 3 months. So you're going to continue to see this hold out. But when you see the sales taxes that were collected in March, which aren't going to come in for probably another 3 months, you'll probably start to see a significant downturn there. Non-home rule sales tax finished almost exactly where we were a year ago, down a little bit there, but still well above what we'd been in previous years. You're going to see the same thing there. We've just received the payments through the December month of liability. State income tax, we did real well with that last year. This year started out, first month was down a little, but February, which is the most recent month we have receipts for, did show an substantial increase there. Again, I think you're going to see that trend downward for a while. And finally, the video gaming tax had been on a continual upswing. That's going to grind to a halt in March. I think March 8th or March 9th is when the video gaming system was shut down by the state of Illinois. I don't know how long it'll be till it reopens. I would guess it's not going to be within the next couple of weeks. I do think, though, with this particular source with this stream, and also with the sales tax stream, you're going to see a kind of a significant upsurge there, and I think it'll come back up because I think people are going to want to get out and shop. They're going to want to get out and play video games. They're going to want to get out and drive, travel, go on vacation, and I think a lot of these, and I'm hoping that certainly that's the result. These will be temporary downturns, but we don't know. So again, I would stress the need to be sure that we're careful on how we spend money and when we spend it, and not to spend it on things that can wait, even though they might be in the budget. You might want to see how the revenue streams hold up before you make major purchases of any sort.
Mr. Parrott?
Mr. Treasurer, what would be your estimation per month during this downswing that we're going to take a hit on?
I-
50,000, 60,000 a month?
I can see it being, and depending on the revenue stream that you're talking about, like video.
I'm talking all of it.
All of it, I would say overall, you're probably going to see a 25-30% hit during some of those months. I think some of that, most of it could be recovered, but I think initially, just based on the unemployment, you're probably going to see even as high as 50 in some of these. But overall, it's just an estimate on my part. You probably see about a 35, about a third, about 35% down there. There's really no way to know, and that's why I've been, trying to research some of this, and nobody really seems to know. It's
I mean, we're going to be voting on a budget, and it's going to be difficult. I mean, we can look at 2 or 3 months of just video gaming and looking at, on an average, probably $28,000 a month.
right.
And that's going to be at $100,000 if it's for 3 months, where we don't have that revenue coming in, and then we're also losing a motor fuel tax, whenever that comes in, and then the sales taxes that you're talking about as well too. We're talking a pretty significant amount of money.
Right, we are, and that's why when the previous meetings where we talked about this budget, I emphasized the need to take a real close look at it and amend it if necessary in July when you do the appropriation, and the appropriation should conform to that. And also, the other thing there is you want to look at, or you want to avoid any kind of incurring any kind of additional debt, and I don't see that there's any need that we should. We issued the 3-year bonds, and we're have a tax levy to support that, and we've got several other bonds and some loans out there. But as some of these loans will be paid off, and as they are paid off, I would not incur any additional debt until we see how these revenue streams recover. And the best outcome is that they'll take a hit for 3 or 4 months and then come back even stronger. But I can't emphasize enough the need to amend and revise this budget as necessary. And probably the first time to do that would be at the time of the appropriation, because by then we'll have a better idea.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions or discussion? Do you have anything else, Ms. Scott?
I know.
All right, thank you very much. Ms. Bateman?
For the month of March, the sewer receipts was $471,673.46. We've received no payment from either prisons in the month of March.
Anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. Department head reports either on file or will be shortly. Moving down to new business and communications, we have the authorization to hire a replacement police officer due to the resignation of Maurice Johnson. Chief, do you want to talk about that?
Sure, thank you, Mayor. Is this on? Hello. Corporal Johnson got a position down in Texas, so he's going to move to warmer weather for a police job down there. So we're happy to have him here for the years we've had him. He's done an awesome job for us. He's been very stern with some of our citizens, which kind of make them unhappy sometimes, but that's what you have to do when you're a police officer sometimes. So it's hard. So we wish him the best of luck. He's done a great job for us, and we thank him for his service here. So we are currently working with the Police and Fire and Police Commission right now for a lateral list. Hopefully that'll be done here in the next week. We got one more interview this Wednesday, and then that should finalize all of our applicants at this point. Once we get that lateral list together, we can hire off that one as soon as possible. Of course, I'm sure anybody we hire, we're gonna have to give at least a 2-week notice, but, so hopefully by May 1, if not by May 15th, we can have a couple people hired. So that'll do the replacement for for Corporal Johnson. Since he's a corporal, he'll be leaving a space in our corporal's ranks, so we'll have to fill that with the next agenda item. So I'll talk about that now too. So the next one's up is Heidi Moore. Heidi Moore has done a great job for us. She's actually working on her master's degree currently in the criminal justice field. So she's doing a good job there. She's gotten some experience in investigations, working drug crimes, et cetera, like that. So she's right now on Corporal Johnson's shift, so that'll make an easy transition to corporal for her. So any questions? All right, thank you.
Do we have a motion for item A?
So moved.
Second.
Kathy made the motion, Ron seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Do we have a motion for item B?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Tracy made the motion, Kevin seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Item C and D are approval of 2020 resurfacing targets and approval of 2020 sidewalk and curb targets. Mr. Landers?
Yes, we're getting ready to move into the season, it's that time of year again. I'm bringing forth these, 2 targets for the council to consider. The first one is 4th Street, from Maple to Union, and then Decatur from Union to Sangamon Street. This is the location where the sewer repair took place last December by Carroll Catholic School. The trench was filled with a temporary flowable fill concrete. We'd be looking to mill this surface up and then put a new layer of HMA down, hot mix asphalt, along with some sidewalk work and ramp work to correct some ADA issues that are also there. The second target would be Heitman Drive, which runs between Woodlawn, or runs from Woodlawn to Olson Drive, basically, between Russell Stover's Candy and Thornton's Truck Stop. This is a concrete surface currently. It is approximately about 10 to 12 years old. For whatever reason, this pavement has deteriorated quickly. It's in very bad shape. We'd be looking to replace it with another concrete surface in that area.
Any questions? Kevin?
Walt, last year was a very popular decision to, I'm going to use the term, spread the love around, where every ward got something done. Have you had any thought on that, or is there a way to come back with other targets to where at least something's being repaired in each ward? I've already had a couple people after your comment last week that not a single resident lives on Heitman Drive, and that's a tough pill to swallow for the residents and myself. It's mostly truck traffic, which is what has tore that up. So it would just, I don't know, it would just be beneficial, in my opinion, if we could at least repair something in each ward like we did last year. I think that went over pretty well.
That's completely up to the council. Unfortunately, we'd have to eliminate that target just for financial reasons to be able to cover other areas. It wouldn't be difficult to come up with the other targets in an oil and chip chip program and then also with some more mill and overlay. But at some point, we're gonna have to address that section of road just due to the condition of it. We've worked on it, we've probably spray patched it 3 or 4 times. It lasts usually about a year, and then it starts developing big holes again. Even the rebar and the concrete starts showing up again. But if it's the council's will, they'd like to look at other targets and spread it out more, that's something we could definitely do.
Tracy.
Yeah, I agree with Alderman Bateman on this. Last year, we did the stretch of Kickapoo Street, which took a pretty decent chunk of our budget as well. So I'd like to see if we could, I hate to say it, but patch Heitman Drive up for one more year to address some of the more poorly conditioned roads throughout the wards. And I've always been an advocate for identifying targets within every ward so that every ward at least receives some attention during that budget year. I mean, we're never going to replace all of them in a short period of time, but we have to start somewhere.
Okay, I can come back with additional targets, that's for sure. Would it be okay to go ahead and start working on the section of 4th Street and Decatur Street? They can start doing engineering for that.
We're all shaking our head, yes.
Okay, and it could be possible that it's beneficial to go ahead and get engineering done on that Heitman Drive, and we can have that completed. And then be prepared to do it next year or the year after. Is that something the council would consider?
What is that engineering cost?
I do not have a specific number right now.
Okay.
One thing I was going to mention, though, that
It's included in 310,000.
right, the Heitman Drive is in pretty bad shape, and if you patch it this year, you're going to have to come back to it eventually anyway, and that's a first impression in the city. So I understand everybody wants something in their ward, but I think Walt's right in calling that out and bringing attention to it. I drive on that every day, and most everybody in Lincoln does at some point. So, I mean, it's going to have to be addressed, whether you do it now or next year. So, I mean, it's not in good shape, and patching it's not going to hold up very long. Like he said, you're going to have to keep redoing that. So, I mean, I understand where you guys are coming from, but at the same time, that is a first gateway into our town as well.
And then I'd like to mention too, that even if we could get the engineering part of it done, it could take more time just because it connects with the state route. So it involves IDOT, review of the plans, and, we could get that part of it done, then we could move forward with it either, in the next season or the season after, and have that portion of it completed.
Kevin?
Is on the Heitman Drive, Walt, is this something where a discussion with the engineer, when I was on the county board, we redid what we all call Elkhart blacktop in concrete because of all the coal trucks. And at the time, they used a fairly new process where I don't believe there's any rebar in there. It's all fiber mesh. And anybody that's been out that way, it's held up extremely well with all the heavy truck traffic. So I don't know if that's, something that can be mentioned to the engineers that obviously these are 80,000 pound trucks that use this 99% of the time, and it should hold up longer than that.
Alderman Bateman, I can look into that, and I believe that was a white topping, I believe. Does that sound familiar?
Yes, it's a big fiber straw. It literally makes the concrete pretty much indestructible.
You basically have a complete failure of the pavement there. I mean, it's a complete failure. It's not just a partial. So basically, I think our only option is to reconstruct it. But I can look into that and ask those questions.
Also, if the council agrees to do the engineering, and as you say, it's going to take time because it gets IDOT approval, that would give us a dollar amount to shoot for next year's budget, maybe adding some to the street resurfacing budget so that not only Heitman Drive can be done, but still roads be repaired in each one of the wards, because as Walt indicated, the piece of 4th Street in Decatur takes up a pretty good chunk, and we won't have that to do next year. So at least it'd give us numbers to shoot for when we're working on next year's budget.
And then, I don't know if it was something in the material testing or what it was with that area, but it just seems like it's failed prematurely, actually. And even up Olson Drive towards FedEx, we have some issues back up that way. And that doesn't really receive a lot of the traffic that Heitman Drive does. And then one difference between what you were speaking about, the Elkhart Pulaski Blacktop, that's basically a roll through. I mean, them trucks are rolling through there most of the time. They're not stopping and turning and things like that, which on Heitman Drive, they're turning into the truck stop or turning out, coming up to the stoplight, braking, and those type of things. So that could have a further effect on the deterioration there too, compared to what you were mentioning between on the Pulaski Elkhart Blacktop.
So how do you guys want to proceed with this? Tracy?
So I'd make a motion that we proceed with the resurfacing from 4th Street, from Maple to Union, in Decatur from Union to Sangamon Street, at an estimated target cost of $150,000. Then we ask Walt to come up with the engineering costs and potential other targets for the remainder of that money.
I'll second that.
Tracy made the motion, Ron seconded. Discussion? Tracy?
I will just say, Mayor, you bring up a very good point about Heitman Drive, and I don't disagree that that's the first thing people see when they come into town, whether they're driving a truck or just getting off the highway to get gas for their cars or a meal or something like that. And this is a decision that I don't really think that there are any winners in, to be honest with you. But I think we owe it to the people that pay taxes in this town to at least put some money into roads in their residential areas that are in desperate need of attention. I mean, alleys is a whole nother thing. Walt could hire a whole nother crew and spend the year patching alleys, so.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. It's just at some point you're going to have to spend the money on that road too, so.
Absolutely.
Any other discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Approval of renewing 60-month lease with Conica Minolta for City Hall and Police Station for copiers. Current lease is set to expire.
Got one.
Oh, I thought we kind of, do we not?
Not the sidewalks. We didn't
Sidewalks.
discuss.
Oh. Okay. Sidewalks. Yeah, sorry.
Sidewalks, okay.
That's okay. Somebody spoke up before I did. I didn't want to interrupt.
I just kept reading.
So, if you look at the memo regarding the sidewalks, basically these were targets that we had chosen last year but had to remove them due to budget restraints. And again, it focuses on areas around some of the schools. And I've also provided, if you can look at the maps that I provided, the yellow, the portions marked in yellow are additions basically in the same area. The reds were targets that we had last year. What we had in there for last year was a little short of the budget, so I added the yellow ramp work there by Central School, and then again by Washington Monroe School, if that'll fit in the budget. One thing I didn't mention in the memo, something we've been working on for a few years, is a continuation of the project a few years ago when we worked over near CVS. We put some sidewalk there along College Street, and we did not get a chance to complete the ramp at Woodlawn Road in College, right there on the CVS corner, because we needed to get easements for that. There's been some movement on those easements to be able to do that work, so that is also another target that we could be looking at, to try to finish that up and at least have one accessible point there at that intersection, which is heavily traveled by school students, and then also the people from the high rise and Logan County Housing Authority use that quite often, traveling back and forth. So I think it's very important that we try to get that ramp finished up there on that corner also.
Discussion or questions? Do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Tracy made the motion, Kevin seconded. Discussion? Roll call, please.
Mr. Bateman?
Yes.
Mr. Leith?
Yes.
Mr. Welch?
Yes.
Mr. Parrott?
Yes.
Mr. Downs?
Yes.
Mr. Keller?
Yes.
Mr. Haneke?
Yes.
Mrs. Horn?
Yes.
All right, this time we're ready for item E, which is the approval of renewing 60-month lease with Connie Minolta for City Hall and Police Station for copiers as the current lease is set to expire. Peggy?
The lease are to expire at City Hall and at the police station. And reached out to Conica Minolta, which that's what we got right now. And for the City Hall, currently, we pay $197 a month for the lease. And he just took an average of the black copies and the colored copies. So we basically pay $283.57 a month on that copier, and we get 3 different bills for that. So with the 60-month lease, which includes unlimited copies, and including paying off the old lease on this one, which, of course, your maintenance and toner and everything is included. We don't have to pay anything extra. We'll get 1 bill a month for $306.87. So it's just a little more than what we're paying right now, but everything is included. The good thing about it, on the colored copies, we won't get a bill for extra colored copies or any colored copies. So the plan is, since the one we currently have will be paid off through this, the one here in the fire department is on its last leg. If it breaks one more time, chances are they can't find the part. It's so obsolete. So that's going to move ours downstairs back up here to the fire department. And so they will have a copier. And the only thing they will have to do is get a monthly maintenance agreement, which will be $25 a month. And that will include any parts and labor, their toner, everything is in that $25. And since the new one downstairs will not have to pay for colored copies, he suggested that the fire department, he can set it up to where they can give Chief Danowski like a code. And if anybody in the fire department wants to print a colored copy, they can send the copy downstairs and it can print downstairs, because we're not paying for our colored copies because it's included in the new machine. So they can print downstairs to get their colored copies, because if they print colored copies up here on the one coming up, they would have an additional bill for colored copies. So it just save everybody in that end if they would just print downstairs when they need a colored copy, which I don't think they print that many colored copies up in the fire department. So the police department, they did real good. Their monthly right now that they spend, which is the same thing, their current lease, their average of black copies, average of colored copies, they pay $162.24, which is 3 different bills. Their new 60-month lease would be $167.61. So it's barely any difference there. And it's the same thing. It would include paying off the one they got, and every maintenance, toner, everything will be included.
Has the police department got a place for their old copier? Does Street and Alley have a copier?
Yeah, they got their, Street and Alley's got their own. And I don't know, I don't think me and Susie had that conversation, what they would do with their current one now, if they would go back to one of your, because it'd be yours, it'd be paid off.
Well, we could probably use it for, actually move that one to an administration and then put the new one there for a records clerk.
It should be theirs.
Is that a 60-month as well?
Yes, both of them will be a 60-month.
Kevin?
So, Would you reach out to Minolta and see if they would offer the police department the same $25 a month? Are you okay with that, Paul? The $25 to keep your old machine?
And when they got these two machines 60 months ago, it was, the lease payment wasn't going toward the purchase of the machine. And this gentleman doesn't know why it was set up the way it was set up. So these new leases, our lease payment will go toward the payment of the machine. So the payoff wouldn't be so big at the end of 60 months.
Tracy.
So the new machine down in the clerk's office, it's gonna have all the code set up by department like the current one does?
Yeah.
For
They'll
proper-
come and they'll just stick a flash drive in the one downstairs. It'll pull all the information, and then they'll stick it in the new one. So all those codes and everything will be put in the new one. And it depends how, if Bob wants anything fancy set up on the one that they bring up here.
Okay.
They can do whatever. And he said it may be a month before they can get them, because they'll just make one trip to Lincoln and swap out the two and do it all in one day, which is all included. And they'll, the police station, theirs is identical, so there's no training to them. It's the same, basically the same machine. So.
Fire Chief, did you have any comment? Bob, did you have any comment? Nope.
Peggy covered everything.
Okay. Any questions, or do we have a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Tracy made the motion, Steve seconded. Any further discussion at all? Roll call, please.
Mr. Parrott,
Yes.
Mr. Downs,
Yes.
Mr. Keller,
Yes.
Mr. Haneke,
Yes.
Mrs. Horn,
Yes.
Mr. Bateman,
Yes.
Mr. Leith,
Yes.
Mr. Welch.
Yes.
Moving down to discussion, we have the discussion about the Lincoln Park District's request for taking over city-owned parks. John, did you have anything to add first?
I believe the last time we were here, he indicated that as we were discussing this, we had ordered tile work. We did order tile work. They've have 2 of the 4 parks done, I believe. It's taking quite a bit longer than the average tile work at this juncture. The tile company is working at half staff. People will only have a couple of people there in a given day, and the person who's doing our tile work on this is only there some days of the week. And as I understand it, due to the low interest rates, they've been hit with a lot of refinance requests. So at least that's what they tell me. But they say that they should have the other 2 done. At this juncture, I haven't seen it yet, but I do not foresee there being a problem in regards to there being special stipulations. The parks being only, like say, that they actually remain city parks. But until I actually see the work itself, I won't say anything more in regards to that, but that's just kind of the impression I've been receiving from the tile company. But I'll keep you guys updated. There's also several other things that are working in the mix. They're not actually ripe to bring up at this juncture, but will probably be presented before the council, hopefully sooner rather than later. I know there's people on the council and have indicated previously that this issue deserves to be brought forth and be at least have a vote on it, and hopefully we can effectuate that soon.
Other comments or discussion? Tracy?
A couple other things. Home Energy reached out to the mayor, myself, administrator, I believe the clerk today. The letters for the residential aggregation have started to go out. I actually received mine today. Just as a reminder, it is an opt-out program. So if you do not want to participate in the program, I believe if I looked at my letter and recall, there's a date in mid to early May 8th, that they're asking you to follow the process to opt out. And if you do not, then you'll start to get the rate that's provided on the letter. So keep an eye out for that. And then the other announcement I got is the Third Friday Committee has been having conversations. Obviously, we can't be having meetings, but we're conversing electronically. And we're planning for June, July, and August, although we're focusing more on July and August because June's pretty much up in the air. We don't know what's going to happen come June. So just stay tuned and we'll give you more information as we figure that out.
Steve?
Yeah, I had a resident reach out to me in an email with some concerns during this crisis about Lincoln being situated on I-55 with the direct route between Chicago and Mexico. And a large number of transients from Chicago are coming through this way. And if there was something that we have seen, Chief Adams, as far as any additional transients coming through, and if so, do we have a plan in place perhaps to help these individuals if in need of any assistance?
So we haven't had any, necessarily any transient issues. I mean, we always get people that are broken down on the highway. That's what we have the Ministerial Association for. They provide at least a one night stay, or they may provide a gas voucher if necessary to get people where they need to go, or at least get them overnight until they can get someplace or get their car repaired, etc. There's stipulations on that, on when and who it can be given to. It can't be given to local residents. It can only be given to those people that are going up and down the roadway. So we have that for those transients already in place. But locally, we don't have anything else. So, did that answer your question?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
I got a couple quick announcements. I've had several people that have reached out to me about banners and signs for the graduates this year that they're wanting to have made, and may approach the council about putting them on city property or county property. So I just want to give everyone a heads up that is something that's in the works. And then also I got a letter from the Illinois Association of Water Pollution Control Operators. As you know, the city of Lincoln was nominated. They had to cancel the reception. City of Lincoln did not receive anything, but they wanted to make sure that everyone knew. I mean, and I can read the winners of the 2019 were City of Naperville, Springbrook, City of Carbondale, Northwest Plant, Village of Huey, Village of Pawnee, and then for industrial it was U.S. Steel for Granite City, and then operator of the year was John Bretchen. I'm going to go with Village of Addison. So they did send that and wanted to make sure that everyone was aware that they had to regretfully cancel the ceremony due to the obvious health issues. So, other announcements? Ron?
Thank you, Mayor. The Census Bureau wants us to continue to remind residents to fill out their census forms if you've not done so. Just as an update, nationally, 50% of the public has submitted their responses, which is a little bit below the projected amount at this point, but I think we all know that the coronavirus has upset a lot of life choices, and so the census is probably not the number one priority for a lot of people. Illinois actually is a ninth in the highest of the states for a response, so we're doing something right. And also our county and our city are also above the national average in our response rate, so continue to fill those out.
Beth, did you have an announcement?
Yes, I did. Thank you. I got a Comcast, if anybody wants to hear it. It's about the programming changes for Xfinity TV services for Comcast. They're going to May 5th, on or before the Clio, I guess, if you know what that is. It's going to be added to the entertainment pack. And then Walt's got a nice announcement. I don't know if he wants to say anything or not, but got some good information today.
Walt, are you there? Do you have an announcement?
I'm coming. Back in February, we had a surprise OSHA inspection.
Yes, we did.
Inspected the street department here. There was a few violations unbeknownst to us. I think there was maybe 5 total. But today we received word that our abatement efforts were all taken into consideration, and we are in the all clear. We have met all the OSHA requirements. We are through that, and I'm glad to be through it. And I guess we passed.
Yes, we did. Yay.
It was a lot of work, getting stuff together, getting training done, different things like that. There was a lot of processes that we had to go through to take care of certain issues, but the staff all worked together well. We got everything corrected, so it was nice to hear that news today.
Yes, it was. Yes. Thank you.
Very good.
I've got one more,
Mhm.
real quick. I just want to say that during our COVID, some nice things happened to our downstate stabilization program. We did a small business, and we only had really a week, maybe a week and a half total to get this done. And we had a really good turnout, and we got some really nice results. I think they're going to announce this on Wednesday, but congratulations. The City of Lincoln got quite a bit of money for its small businesses. It went to the small businesses to help them with some of these problems we're experiencing with COVID-19. So, congratulations.
One more thing that I haven't, Peggy, I know you said this a million times, but I've had a couple people, they ask me how they can make their sewer payments with City Hall closed. So would you kind of go over that briefly again?
You got the drop box out front on the sidewalk. You got Kickapoo boxes, the blue boxes on Kickapoo. We prefer you not to put cash in those boxes. A lot of people don't have checking accounts, so if you can go get a money order or cashier's check. We have had a couple that they just can't do that. So if they call while we're here, we tell them to go ahead and put it in the box, and we'll come out and get it. And they call us, and we go out and get it right there from the box on the sidewalk. And then you got online, the city website for credit card.
Thank you. Any other announcements? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second.
Second.
Ron made the motion. Jeff seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All opposed? Meeting is adjourned at 8:07 p.m. Thank you.